Never sell a property. Never sell property. There's no reason. Never sell it. Figure it out, hustle through it, live in it, do what you need to do. Never scale up and never sell a property.
In today's episode, we learn how a nurse has used disciplined leadership, data-driven decisions, and crisis-tested strategy to help her as a real estate investor so that she can scale smarter, protect her profits, and build a portfolio that thrives in any market. Welcome back to the Freedom Blueprint. I'm Adrienne Green, and today we're here with Dina Dent. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Adrienne. I'm happy to have this opportunity to have a conversation with you.
I'm so excited for everything you are going to share with our listeners. So, for people who may not know your background, can you give us a quick overview of your investing portfolio and how your real estate journey began alongside your executive career in healthcare?
Yes, I am a nurse. I'm an RN. I've been a nurse for over 30 years and in administrative healthcare executive leadership for well over 15. And at this point in my life, I actually have a consulting company called Med Consult, but I have always been intrigued by investing, even as a young child, whether it be stock investing or real estate, commercial property, whatever that looks like. And I started investing at a young age. I was a staff nurse, what we call a clinical nurse. So I worked at critical care areas, emergency department, and I got the investing bug and started to early on and fix and flips and wholesale and those things. And I'll get into it later. And then that 2008 crisis jumped in and it had me totally reset my life.
Yes. What I love, and a lot of things that we can pull out there, is that you started it when you were young, when it probably was still a little tight to set that money aside and to do that investing, when it wasn't easy. And while you were in the middle of like building and growing in a pretty hardcore, like executive career path as well.
I wanted to be a nurse and still love that industry so much. Just the opportunity to take care of so many in your community and your own life. So, very challenging environment, depending on the capacity that you want to jump into. I love the high intensity area. I started going in the leadership track, which is, leading company, leading teams, leading diverse population, leading multidisciplinary teams. So, as a nurse leader, you have to have relationships with physicians, with physical therapy, with the dietary team, with EVS. So, really, really love that. In the midst of that, I bought a property. I bought my first home. I was very excited about it. I was in my 30s. And I was very irritated about the time it took for the process. I'm like, okay, why are you asking me for the same documents over and over and over again? So then I started to get the investing bug and started to do some fix and flip projects. So bought a few properties with some friends. They did the construction. I did the money side of it and was still challenged with why is it taking so long? Come on, close this deal, 30 days. So I said, you know what? I might figure out how to do this. So I went and got a certificate to be a loan officer. And I was a staff nurse. Yeah, worked as a staff nurse and went into leadership of charge nurse manager and then worked as a loan officer on the side. Yeah, so worked with a broker company and started with a 60-40 split and I started closing loans. So yeah, I wanted to cut that time in half, because it eats in to the bottom line the longer it takes to close the loan. And it's irritating. We both know. Like, can you send me this again? Can you send me this again? So did that for years and was a loan officer and worked. And then the mortgage crisis hit with those subprime loans. And I had about 4 or 5 properties at that time. And my rates went from, 5% to 12%. And, I did just challenging environment. Rent wasn't covering, the mortgage at that point, couldn't refi out. So I did I had to do some short sales, which was tragic for me at that time. Again, I'm a nurse. So I'm working 16, 20 hours a day, Adrienne, every shift, night shift, day shift, trying to pay mortgages. So I had to accept that I needed to settle some of those properties. I wasn't able to afford them anymore, but I kept one property. I kept one at that time, the one I lived in. And a lot of people say, don't get an investment property unless you're going to make money off of the rent. There shouldn't be a delta. But let me tell you, that's not always true. For the first 2 years with that property, I put two to the rent every month to pay that mortgage while I lived somewhere else and moved in a different state. And now
Mhm.
that property is my bank. I've had it for over 25 years. It's my bank. I can go and pull money out anytime to do new investments. So from then, I started buying more properties. I moved around a lot. I have properties in a number of different states, a number of different cities. Every rule is different. Every closing is different. So I have properties in Louisiana and Texas, Philadelphia, Virginia, and single family homes, which after a number of fix and flips, I've had construction properties, commercial properties that I've done and resold, duplexes, triplexes in the past. So at this point now in my career, I'm mostly focused on scaling. So my single family homes, yeah, into multi-family homes.
Well, let's go through and talk about how you've done this a little bit, considering that you've had a busy professional career. You're not always in the same city or state as these properties.
Hmm.
So, what I would ask, thinking of your leadership experience, talking about that
Yeah.
first, how has your leadership experience on your corporate healthcare side influenced the way you structure and run your real estate investments?
Yeah. Sometimes it's different. My leadership experience is I stick with hiring people that are smarter than I am, right? Those that I strive in the professional development zone. I love
Mm,
developing team members. The people that I hire, I want them to want my job, right? What does that look
mhm,
like? So I don't have a micromanaging aspect of it because some of us learn as we grow and especially into leadership that we learn more from the bosses we don't want to be like than those that we do want to be like. So the micromanaging, I never did that as a leader. I love to give and allow my teams to, fail. Right. So that's how we learned. And that's how we become not scared to try different innovative processes. My investing side is a
mhm,
little different. I probably micromanage. Right. So, and I know I do. I work towards not. And I can tell you right now, because I am 100% working, I'm not doing my W-2 anymore. I am focusing on my consulting company and my real estate, that I have now gotten rid of all my property managers and I'm doing it myself. So, yeah,
That's a big change.
it's a big change because I felt like I was doing so much with the property managers. I'm paying them 8 and
Mhm,
10%, but I'm looking like, wait, the refrigerator, same refrigerator broke again. We paid a different company. It's constant. And sometimes, working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, it's months before, you look at those P&L sheets. You don't even notice it. So now it is making me focus more on it. So yeah, totally move toward one property at a time. I'm going to be my own property manager. So I
mm,
will say also the ability I learned, I appreciate your leadership around this and your education that you instilled in me around a VA, because I have a virtual assistant that totally supports my consulting business and I have no idea what I would do without her. The social media post, the website, the coaching agreements, those things. Her doing that in the background has allowed me to push more with the property management. Now, I also have a goal of having another conversation with you about what it looks like to have a VA just on the real estate side, because I am going to need some assistance there.
When it comes to property managers, it's sad that in the industry, there are so few that are amazing, right? Out of all the investors I speak to, so few are like, I love my property manager. I wish there were more. It would be such a great resource to have. And yet, while that's the reality of what we live in as investors, I do think for people who have the capacity to be in charge of it themselves, with a virtual assistant. I mean, I speak to that. I love that. It's a great model. So I'm glad that you're in
Yeah,
a position where you can start doing that. That's awesome.
yeah.
Now, let's think about or talk about because I know you've managed assets, thinking of management across multiple investment types. You've done flips, long term rentals, syndications. What processes or decision frameworks help you evaluate where to focus your time and your capital? How do you figure out what to do next?
Yeah, I have a huge pie chart where I look at diversification. So I'll share, with the audience that I am committed to diversifying because of that 2008 crisis, right? It shaped me on what it looks like. Always, I've been working since I was like 12 or 13. So was able to have a 401k when I became a nurse. So have always invested in that and was able to use that money for down payments on subsequent properties and investing deals. So I wouldn't have had, I didn't come with the ability to have, my parents or family giving me down payment money. I worked hard, totally maxed out 401k, pulled that money in and used it as down payments, right? So that's how I've done that. My buy box now has to do solely from the real estate. The hard asset area is moving toward long term. So right now, one of my properties, one in Atlanta, I'm shifting to a midterm rental. It's just the time. I've taken over the property management of it and my renters are leaving. I'm like, okay. So I did my, background investigation and I can make, a lot more money on shifting to a midterm there. I am utilizing some funds that I've had, again, in investing that I've made off syndications and finally got returns and things to move forward with multi-family. So in a couple of weeks, I'll be closing on a few properties in Pennsylvania here for multi-family. My buy box is around location, which looks a little different for some people. I am very comfortable and confident in the number of locations. I can invest in Philly, Atlanta, Texas, Louisiana, because I've invested there before and I live there. I know the areas, right? So I'm very comfortable. So from a geography standpoint, that buy box is pretty large. The ROI and the cap rate, I put a lot on cap rate, but then I don't because I do balance it out on what my IRR and my return looks like on some syndications. So I try to have, a third of my investing goes to stocks and bonds. Like I'm heavily involved in stocks. Throw some crypto in that. I do invest in crypto. I have a third in syndications, right? And my how I do my background check-in for syndications is really I get recommendations from people that I know that have invested in with those people with syndications, right? So my first pretty large syndication was really with some cardiologists from a previous hospital system that a colleague introduced me to. I had been following them on social media already. And then when I had the conversation with the colleague, he was like, "We went to school together." I was like, "What?" So he called him on the phone. So I was able to do my interview right then and there. So that was very comfortable with that investing. So every other syndication that I've investing, I've been able to have conversations with them because of a recommendation from someone that I trust in the field. The other third is hard assets. It's real
Mhm.
estate. And above all that, my company approach around leadership development, coaching, that is my general business.
Hiring a virtual assistant shouldn't be a guessing game. If you're ready to offload time consuming tasks and scale your real estate investing business, my Real Estate VA Launchpad course gives you the exact roadmap to find, train, and manage high performing VAs. Learn how to delegate like a pro and take back your time. Enroll now at adriennegreen.com/courses, and you'll find that link in the show notes below. All right. There's a lot of nuggets there for people to grab. That is for sure. Now, when we think about, like you were saying, your buy box, your investing strategy, you've achieved success in multiple markets, multiple investment types. When do you know it's time to scale in a certain area or certain strategy? And how do you balance that growth and scale with, not losing control or having it go off the rails?
It depends on when the opportunity presents itself. So my frustration with the property management really catapulted me into focusing on hard assets right now. And that will be my
Mhm.
focus. I've been wanting to scale up to multifamily forever. And you and I are in the same mastermind, and that mastermind has allowed me to grow with confidence and be comfortable with those I'm working with. So the team of women that we have the opportunity to grow, it's taken away that aspect of me growing and being nervous and not confident in the people that I might be buying or selling with because being in this mastermind has kind of removed that. I can move a little bit quicker. So my focus, I would say right now, is really on the hard assets, is moving forward with growing in multifamily. After multifamily, I want to move more into mixed use properties, like a few
Mhm.
residential and then commercial. And I have been looking for that hard asset for a while now, just haven't had the opportunity to find that perfect match.
And I know you spend a lot of time analyzing properties. How do you evaluate risk when you're looking at this wide variety of asset classes, right? You've got a portfolio that goes everything from that traditional single family home long term rental to crypto, right? So, what is your strategy for handling risk with such a wide portfolio?
I do a lot of reading and I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot. I have in the mastermind, we have our pod, but I'm also a person in executive leadership, in coaching, and also in investing. I have no problem with really fully myself vetting a deal and sending it to two or three other people. I am very confident with doing that. I will take all feedback. And sometimes it really behooves all of us to show the deal to someone that that's not their investing strategy. They don't buy real estate, hard asset real estate. Show it to them and say, what are your thoughts on that? And then, of course, show it to two or three people that you know
Mhm.
that is their experience. So I really, after I do my due diligence, all my spreadsheets, all of that, I actually show the deal and share with a number of different people just to get their feedback and their thoughts around it.
Right. I love that because people can have a different perspective. They can see something you don't see or ask a question that
Yeah.
you wouldn't think to ask that maybe makes you think or evaluate things in a new way. I love that. So, Dina, I'm curious. We are called the Freedom Blueprint here. What does freedom look like for you at this stage? How are you intentionally designing your investing to support that vision of freedom?
I hope everybody is following Adrienne Green because that's freedom. When you can wake up in Korea and then go to sleep and next year in Argentina and your family is getting the opportunity, like you are the blueprint of absolute freedom. So to be able to work from anywhere, to be able to manage my investing, teaching, coaching from anywhere, that is true freedom for me. Not having to be committed or not feeling pulled in so many different directions and not really roped into pension and I have to stay at this job this many years to get health care and then these golden if you leave now you don't get your retirement like that's not freedom. Freedom is to be able to wake up in the morning or your family needs you and you can fly home and not have to have a conversation with a boss or someone else and say, I'm not going to be here this week and then deal with that. So, freedom to me is being able to make money while I am asleep, that total passive income. And for me to be able to wake up on white sand, blue water and stay as long as I need to and be able to work. So that's true freedom.
I love it. Yeah, I think you did a great job explaining it there. And it's funny, it is amazing. And sometimes I can take for granted what we have. But in a couple months back, when we were outside Lisbon in Portugal, we had to drive somewhere. It was a weekday morning, and we were staying like kind of in the suburbs of Lisbon, but we got stuck in like rush hour traffic because we had Lisbon's on like a I guess I don't know if that's the exact right term, but to get to where we had to go over a bridge. So we had to go in and then go over the bridge and we were stuck in this rush hour traffic. And it reminded me of like when I lived in LA and I worked in one part of LA and lived in the other and I had to leave. I was telling my kids who were in the car, I was like, I had to leave my house at like I think it was like 6:05 in the morning, 6:10, because if I did it at that point, the drive was only like 35 minutes. But if I left, 10, 15 minutes later, it was an hour and everything.
Hour.
And I remember so many times driving across LA on the freeway and seeing the sunrise. And then, of course, I'd still get stuck in the rush hour traffic going home. And I was like,
Mhm.
my kids don't know what that's like. They don't know what it's like to have
That's
mom be
awesome.
gone before they have to go to school or anything. And
Mhm.
they don't know what it's like to have to coordinate around rush hour traffic for jobs and stuff because that's not our life. And it just reminded me
Yeah.
and just made me very grateful that we don't have to deal with that for sure. Okay. So as we kind of wrap up here, I'd love to hear some of our closing quickfire questions that we've got and what your insights are here. So, what is a book that has been transformational in your investing journey?
So I know you said a book,
We can have
and
more than one. It's okay.
I'm not going through the Rich Dad Poor Dad because I do books and podcasts, right? So I just interchangeably. So Walk Through Fire by Sheila Johnson Lee. If anybody has the opportunity to read that book, it's a true leadership book. First Black billionaire, owns uncountable amount of resorts all over in the Caribbean and Virginia and all these uh, has a majority and minority stake in a number of the NFL and NBA teams. And she just went through so many challenges and was able to persevere. One of our peers and our Go Abundance women has a great book I read not too long ago. Whitney Elkins Hunton. It's called Money for Tomorrow. It covers everything from life insurance to hard asset real estate. It's a book that you can give a kid and then an adult, right? So it's wide range, something, and it's a quick read. But all time really changed my trajectory on how I delegate was Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. Like, that was one of the best books I ever read. I'm like, I'm doing it all wrong. But I listened to a number of podcasts. I'll just a few hope. John Hope Bryant has an amazing podcast called Money and Health Wealth. I listen to. I absolutely listen to your podcast. Some of our Go Abundant
Thank you.
sisters. I listen to all of their podcasts, Power Up. So the education is out there for everyone. People want to tell you that, very open about what mistakes were made and how to not make those mistakes. So I continue to read a number of different books and to educate myself that way.
Love it. And what if you could go back in time? What is some advice you'd give to your younger self when you were starting out on your investing journey?
Never sell a property. Never sell a property. There's no reason. Never
Okay.
sell it. Figure it out, hustle through it, live in it, do what you need to do, never sell. And I'm sure I can't wait to see the comments because there's different schools of thoughts around that. But never scale up and never sell a property.
Mhm.
I would have definitely kept probably if I could, if it financially made sense. And then the second thing is, this is also going to cause another. Be mindful when you do go into business with family. People's perspective
Mhm.
around what it takes to really make good money, meaning the ability to delegate to those that are smarter than you in different aspects, that is key to success. And if you're not on
Mhm.
the same page with that, it will become challenging.
And, I think it's fair to say that any kind of partnership is challenging. It needs to be vetted. I mean, think about how long we date someone before we marry them most of the time, right? And all the vetting that we do. And yet, sometimes in business, in investing, we'll jump in a partnership with somebody a lot easier. And yeah, let's just say that. And there's a lot that can go wrong. And then you put family drama on top of that, and
Yep.
it can add another
Yep.
level. So I love that, you're not saying don't do it. You're saying
Mhm.
just be careful, be
Be
mindful,
cautious. Be cautious.
cautious,
Ask the right
cautious.
questions.
Yes, I love
Mhm.
that. Well, Dina, thank you so much. You shared a lot of wisdom from your
Yeah.
experience as, in the healthcare space and then with your investing. I think it's going to be really helpful for our listeners. Now, if somebody would like to learn more about you, to connect with a follow-up question, or to learn more about your consulting on the healthcare side, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Sure. I'm on MedConsult LLC on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and my website is yourmedconsult.com. So please, I love having conversations around investment, coaching, development. I give out free advice all day. 24/7. So appreciate reaching
Perfect.
out and I appreciate you, Adrienne. Keep doing what you're doing. You're an inspiration. So thank you.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. That's very nice of you to say. And thank you to our listeners here. Thank you for listening. And be sure to send this episode on to anybody you know who could benefit from hearing Dina's story. Go ahead and text it over to them now. And then join us next week for another episode of The Freedom Blueprint.